Tom Brady just slapped Logan Paul live at Fanatics Fest, and the NFL world had a lot to say. Players reacted with shock, jokes, and disbelief, as the seven-time champion broke character in a way nobody expected. So what really happened between Brady and Paul, and why did the NFL react this way? Let's get into it. Here's the moment. Brady and Paul are on stage together at Fanatics Fest, the massive sports memorabilia and fan convention that's taken over the Javits Center in New York City. They're doing a panel, it ends, and then, according to multiple accounts, Tom Brady and Logan Paul shared a stage at Fanatics Fest in New York. And when their panel ended, an alleged beef heated up and boiled over into an exchange that ended with a slap to the face. The clip is everywhere within the hour. A clip posted on Fanatics' X account showed the moment Brady and Paul faced off near center stage while exchanging what appeared to be spicy words. Brady then removes his hand from the pocket of his camouflage cargo pants and moves to strike. Right there in the middle of the frame, at first glance, it appears Brady slapped Paul across the face. But closer inspection shows that Brady's hand missed the target and only made contact with Paul's shoulder. At that moment, New York Knicks star Karl-Anthony Towns jumped in to break up the fight. Towns wasn't some random bystander pulled from the crowd either. He was standing right there on stage with them the entire time. New York Knicks star Karl-Anthony Towns, who stood behind the two on stage as they argued, stepped between Brady and Paul when the argument turned physical. Security got involved fast, and Brady and Paul were quickly escorted off stage. Now here's where the NFL locker room chatter kicks in. This wasn't some random influencer getting smacked around. This was Tom Brady, the guy who won more Super Bowls than entire franchises have in their histories, putting his hands on somebody live, on camera, at a public event. That alone was enough to send football Twitter into a frenzy. One of the first prominent football voices to weigh in was Will Compton, the former NFL linebacker who's built a massive following, breaking down locker room culture. His reaction wasn't shock that Brady got physical. It was shock that Brady, of all people, lost his cool in public. Former NFL EB Will Compton commented on X, saying he couldn't believe Logan Paul got Tom Brady to lose his composure like this. And that's the thing football insiders kept hammering. Compton, a former NFL linebacker, pointed out that Brady isn't one who typically loses his composure, and it didn't happen often when tensions were high on the football field. So why would it suddenly happen at a planned public event? Compton wasn't the only football name reacting in real time. NFL writer John Frasella, who covers the league daily, posted his own disbelief, asking what was going on in this world after watching Brady throw hands at a WWE star. It's the kind of reaction that spread fast, specifically because it came from people who actually cover and play the sport Brady built his legend in. People who know exactly how out of character this was for him. And then there's the physical layer to all this, because Karl-Anthony Towns wasn't just standing there as a prop. He's an NBA champion, somebody used to chaos on a basketball court, and even he looked completely lost, trying to process what he just witnessed. As one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, it's safe to say Tom Brady has mastered the art of throwing a football. Now, he's working on his ability to be a slap fighter too. Like Karl-Anthony Towns, nobody was exactly sure what was going on. Towns' own social reaction afterward carried that same energy. New York Knicks player Karl-Anthony Towns, who stepped in between the two during the heated moment, also reposted the clip on X with a wide-eyed emoji. What makes this land so hard with football fans specifically is Brady's reputation. This is a guy who spent 2 decades in shotgun formations avoiding contact, not initiating it. One outlet put it bluntly, would the 48-year-old Brady, who played quarterback, really hit a pro wrestler? It's not like Brady was an enforcer like James Harrison on the gridiron. This was a guy who didn't like to get hit and would avoid contact as much as he possibly could. So the reactions weren't just wow drama. They were specifically football-shaped reactions. Guys who spent their careers around Brady's persona trying to reconcile the calm pocket passer. Trying to reconcile the calm pocket passer with a man throwing an open hand at somebody's face on a convention stage. That contrast is exactly why this moment ripped through NFL circles the way it did within hours of happening. But to understand why NFL players had so much to say about this, you have to go back further than Friday. This didn't come out of nowhere. Brady and Paul have been building toward this for months, and the story of how it got here says a lot about why so many football players were already primed to have an opinion. to get why NFL locker rooms were paying attention to a WWE star getting slapped by a retired quarterback. You need to understand that Logan Paul isn't just some YouTuber who wandered into Brady's orbit. He spent years building a bridge between internet culture and pro wrestling. And along the way, he made the mistake of comparing himself athletically to actual NFL players. Right to Brady's face. The whole thing traces back to February. Brady appeared on Paul's podcast, which airs under the Impulsive banner, and the conversation turned toward athleticism. A month prior to the Flag Football Classic, Brady appeared on an episode of Paul's podcast. During the conversation, Brady said he was worried Paul wouldn't be able to keep up, calling him a good athlete while the other players are on another level. Paul did not take that well. "This guy's insane," he said. The audacity of Tom Brady. "I can't believe it. Wins 7 Super Bowls, thinks he could just go around and talk about this flag football game like it's gonna be the Pro Bowl." But it went deeper than one podcast exchange. The beef between Brady and Paul has grown since February, when Paul irked Brady by making comments about being as athletic as NFL players by virtue of his efforts in the wrestling ring. Paul wasn't being subtle about it either. He straight up said, "I am the highest level. I am the level. Great athlete. Bro, can Saquon Barkley do a flip off the top rope?" Followed by asking if anyone had seen him moonsault over a person's head. That's not a throwaway line. Paul name-dropped an actual NFL running back, Saquon Barkley by name, comparing his own wrestling moves to a guy who was, at the time, coming off one of the best rushing seasons in the league. That's the kind of comment that travels fast through locker rooms, because NFL players don't love hearing a wrestler influencer rank himself above them athletically. Brady's response was immediate and public. He fired back on social media saying he'd been having a great morning and now he's mad, which told you everything about how seriously he took the comparison. Then came March, and the beef stopped being theoretical. It became literal, on a football field. Brady put together the Fanatics Flag Football Classic, a made-for-TV event stacked with actual NFL talent. This wasn't some exhibition with backup names either. It featured mostly NFL stars and some other athletes competing in a game to be televised on Fox. Among the other competitors were Brady, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Rob Gronkowski, and Barkley. And Paul was right there in the middle of it, playing on the opposite side from Brady. Also participating in the event was WWE star and social media influencer Logan Paul, who has been known to pull off unbelievable moves in his matches. And Paul is well known as a heel who embraces trash talking, doing plenty to help Brady promote the event, including calling out NFL stars to fight him. Brady didn't let it slide during the game either. The two faced off again at the draft for the flag football event, during which Brady called out Paul for citing his high school football stats in his argument, and Brady then trolled Paul while the two played on opposite sides of the tournament. Multiple accounts describe Brady jokingly mocking Paul, tossing the ball at him during the game in March. Here's the twist most people missed though. Paul's team actually won that day. While Paul's team did not win the championship at the Fanatics Flag Football Classic, they did defeat Brady's team. So Paul walked away from March with bragging rights over the greatest quarterback of all time, at least in flag football, and he never let it go. That's precisely the ammunition he was still using in July, taunting Brady online about beating him, right before the slap happened on that Fanatics Fest stage. So by the time these two ended up face-to-face again in New York, this wasn't a random collision of two famous people. It was months of trash talk, a lost bet of sorts on the football field, and a wrestler who kept comparing himself to actual NFL athletes. That's the fuse. The slap was just where it finally caught fire. And it's also exactly why so many NFL circles had already been tracking this feud long before Friday's stage confrontation made headlines. Once the clip hit the internet, both men went straight to social media, and neither one held back, which only added more fuel for NFL players and football media to react to. Paul was first out of the gate, and he leaned into being the aggrieved party. This happened BC. I was roasting Tom for beating him in flag football, and he tries to smack me. Horrible example for the kids. Paul wrote on X, reposting a clip of the incident. Aura -100, he added, blocked, with a torn tricep. That last line matters more than it seems. Paul is currently dealing with a legitimate injury, and he brought it up specifically to paint himself as the victim of an unprovoked attack from a healthy 48-year-old. Paul is recovering from a torn triceps suffered May 23 during his WWE World Tag Team Championship defense with the Vision's Austin Theory. He'd been telling anyone who would listen that he was further along in recovery than doctors expected. Asked directly if he was ready to get back in a wrestling ring, Paul showed the camera his arm and asked if it looked injured, saying the WWE medical team needed to tune in and medically clear him because he's fine, before later amending that to needing another 3 to 4 months. Brady's response to the whole thing was the opposite of dramatic. He kept it to one word: dork. Brady posted on social media after resharing the video of the slap. Then he went a step further and directly replied to Paul, writing that he tried America and would try again next time he saw this nerd. That single word did more damage to the "this is a real fight" theory than anything else that happened that day. Nobody genuinely furious posts a one-word insult and moves on with a smirk. And the numbers on that post tell their own story. Brady's reaction has already gone viral with over 1 million views on its own, separate from the original slap footage. The original clip's numbers were staggering on their own. The original Fanatics clip went viral and within 3 hours had been viewed more than 5 million times. And that number kept climbing. By the time outlets were compiling final figures, the footage went viral instantly, with more than 17.5 million views on Instagram and 6.9 million on X. That kind of reach is exactly why so many NFL voices felt compelled to weigh in. This wasn't a niche wrestling story staying inside wrestling media. It crossed over into every football timeline within hours because Brady's name was attached to it. Paul, for his part, kept escalating even after the initial post. In one recorded moment right after the confrontation, he can be heard yelling at people around him, saying to get Brady out of there before somebody actually gets hurt. In one clip after the slap, Paul can be heard telling someone to get your boy repeatedly before adding, "Take him out of here, bro. He's going to get himself hurt. I swear to God." That line right there is what got a lot of football people rolling their eyes, because it doesn't sound like someone who just got legitimately assaulted. It sounds like a professional performer selling a moment, which is exactly the read that former NFL players like Compton had within minutes of watching it. Brady, notably, didn't apologize once, not to Paul, not to the fans, not in any statement beyond his own social jabs. And that silence, combined with the joking tone of his posts, became its own storyline inside football media circles, with plenty of reporters and former players treating the lack of any real remorse as confirmation that nobody involved actually considered this a genuine altercation worth apologizing for. Here's where the story shifts from two famous guys had a moment to something with actual business stakes behind it. And it's the piece that explains why WWE's own accounts were the ones pushing this footage the hardest. The day before the slap happened, Brady was already talking openly about wanting to step into a wrestling ring. He said it live on a podcast, sitting next to an actual WWE star. "I need to get an invite. I've been waiting for Nick Khan to come up with some storyline for me to get in the mix," Brady said on Thursday during a live appearance on Cody Rhodes' What Do You Want to Talk About podcast. "I feel like I'm retired from football. I have an opportunity to go out there and still showcase that I'm a little bit of an athlete. My boy Gronk's done it. I've seen obviously Logan Paul do it. I think I can get in there for at least one match." That's not a guy joking around. That's a direct, public pitch to WWE's president, and he doubled down on wanting to play the villain, saying it was an easy choice for him. "Because it's such an easy choice," Brady said. "I'm a bad guy. I've always been a bad guy. I mean, I feel like when our teams did really well, I would always go into these stadiums, and I would feel that when you go on the road and you've had some success in the NFL, they don't like you." So less than 24 hours later, cameras catch him slapping one of WWE's biggest crossover stars on a stage co-branded by WWE, Fanatics, and the NFL. The timing alone had wrestling insiders convinced this wasn't a coincidence. WWE's own account was actually the one that first posted the footage. The 7-time Super Bowl champ shared footage of the altercation on X, calling Paul a dork, and the original post came from WWE's account, captioned @Tom Brady, just slapped Logan Paul at Fanatics Fest. A company doesn't push out footage of a legend attacking one of its stars, unless it's comfortable with where that story is headed. Wrestling media picked up on this instantly. One wrestling outlet noted that it was just yesterday when NFL legend Tom Brady expressed interest in working a match in WWE and told President Nick Khan to make it happen. And then here was Brady trying to slap Logan Paul a short while later at Fanatics Fest. The The same piece didn't hold back on the assessment, calling the whole thing exactly what it looked like. A soft slap that wouldn't cut it in an actual WWE ring if this was building towards something real. And the calendar lines up too well to ignore. WWE has one of its biggest annual shows coming up next month. SummerSlam just happens to be next month, although that would be a quick turnaround. Beyond that, there's a Saturday night's main event show happening practically the next day in Brady's own backyard of events. There are some major WWE events on the calendar, including WWE, Saturday night's main event XLV at New York's Madison Square Garden. So it's possible Brady could be in some spandex very soon. One sports columnist broke down exactly how this could play out for SummerSlam, even without Brady getting physically involved himself. Since Paul still hurt Brady, despite being unmatched in success and longevity as an NFL player, has no real training or familiarity with the physical demands of professional wrestling. But Paul has two members of his faction, the Vision, who can step up in his place to take on a wrestler that Brady handpicks. The proposed formula was simple. Paul cuts a promo on Brady on WWE Raw, challenging him to step up. Brady responds saying he'll bring his guys to take on the Vision at SummerSlam. And there's your match, and a major celebrity draw for ticket sales or viewership. That's the machinery underneath all of this. It's not just two guys who don't like each other. It's a 7-time champion angling for a wrestling storyline, a company that just posted the footage of him slapping their star, and a calendar with two massive shows sitting right there waiting for a reason to sell tickets. So where does all of this land? The slap happened. The footage is real. The reactions from NFL circles are real. And the beef between Brady and Paul has been building for 5 months in full public view. What's also true is that plenty of people who watched frame by frame noticed the actual contact looks softer than the internet's initial reaction suggested, with some accounts describing Brady's hand landing on Paul's shoulder rather than his face outright. But that detail didn't slow anything down. If anything, it added to the theory that this whole sequence had the polish of something built for the cameras, rather than a spontaneous eruption of anger between two grown men who'd been trading jabs for months. One veteran sports writer summed up the mood perfectly, noting that the guy, many call the greatest quarterback in NFL history, risked his throwing arm with a high-speed slap during a discussion with Paul as recently crowned NBA champion Towns looked on, and it appeared to be all a pre-planned effort to raise awareness to something. Even the top comment on that same piece captured exactly how football fans were processing Brady's post-career choices, with one fan writing that Brady has the lamest post-retirement arc of any GOAT. But regardless of how staged or unstaged any of it was, the reactions from the football world were genuine. Will Compton's disbelief was genuine. Frasella's confusion was genuine. Karl Anthony Towns' bewildered expression, standing inches from the whole thing, was about as real a reaction as you'll see from anybody caught in the middle of a celebrity moment they didn't sign up for. And Paul hasn't backed down an inch since. He's still framing himself as the wronged party, still bringing up his torn tricep every chance he gets, and still needling Brady about the flag football loss that started all of this back in March. Brady, meanwhile, hasn't clarified a single thing beyond calling Paul a name and moving on with his week, which, for a guy who spent 20 years famously controlling every message that came out of his mouth, says a lot on its own. What happens next probably depends less on Brady and Paul themselves, and more on what WWE decides to do with a viral clip that's already pulled in tens of millions of views across every platform it's landed on. If Nick Khan wanted a reason to put Brady in the SummerSlam conversation, he's got one now, wrapped in a bow, with the NFL's biggest legend and one of WWE's most polarizing stars, already trading blows on camera in front of the entire sports world. Whether that turns into an actual match, a one-off cameo, or nothing more than a viral moment that fades by next week, one thing is certain: Tom Brady put his hands on Logan Paul, on camera, in front of thousands of people, and the NFL world has not stopped talking about